So I took the bait. I can't help it. I can't help it. I'll agree, though, with my friend Derek Miner, who says in a tweet, you don't have to write that thing about Will Smith and Chris Rock. You don't have to defend or support it online either. They probably talked about it and it's resolved. In the grand scheme of wars, racism, etc., this is the least concerning thing to clutch your pearls over. I love that. Even though he kind of took the bait a little bit by his tweet. I love you, Derek. I know this guy's heart and I know his wisdom, and I love the picture, accurate and I think a very cool picture of the situation. But anyway, West Philadelphia, born and raised, man. What'd you expect? This is the top 10 moments in TV history. It's in a different category, way less important, but it's right up there with the Challenger, 9/11, Giants over Patriots. I mean, now I understand NASCAR. Hey, if wrecks like last night were more common, I'd watch the Oscars weekly. It's the greatest reality TV show ever. So many things, questions, intriguing human stuff. I mean, I'm thinking, does Denzel see him as a dumbass that he's trying to rescue, or is he thinking I'd have done the same thing? Let me help a brother out. I mean, I wonder just how close the Smiths are to Chris Rock. My guess would be close. And I'm guessing, guys, obviously, but it looked like annoyance and hurt from a buddy of the family. Was Chris Rock sorry, immediately regretting what he did? And if so, was it for him? You regret saying that, oh man, that was an asshole thing to say, now people aren't going to like me, or because he hated that he crossed a line that accidentally hurt his buddy? I have more questions than answers. That's why I love to talk about this sort of stuff, man. Humans are intriguing, but I'll just say this is what you would call a hot take. I don't know how hot it would be, but I've gone through some situations recently that stops me dead in my tracks with stuff like this. This whole Will Smith is a punk now, I don't respect him. I'm in this place of none of us are in the clear. And you may not slap a guy in front of millions, but you have that gambling problem that you're screwing your family out of money that they don't know about. In some facet of life, we all have the potential of Will Smithing, which means going way too far, maybe to an embarrassing or dangerous level with anything. But I may see Will Smithing as a good thing. So I want to try and articulate it here and tell you my thoughts on also the dumbasses that we call the human race, you and I. But this is a monologue. Please do not listen if you do not care what I think about Will and Chris' situation, or you may be a listener who simply finds my views to be stupid or entertaining. That's okay. But if you don't care what I think, this is a monologue and you'll be disappointed. Unorthodox is my thing. But I was just going to record this for patrons because I was like, who wants to hear me? The patrons definitely do. Some of them are giving me money just because they love me, but most of them love the content. I figure, hell, I'll share it with you guys also. So I'm also getting some ladies together, just letting you a little ad here about Pastor With No Answers on the podcast on the regular, like a ladies show where the dude that's on is always the odd man out if he's on the show at all. And I'm going to ask them about this from his wife's perspective. So you'll be hearing from these ladies very soon, and I'm sure you can guess who one of them is. I mean, shall we call it the Ellen Show? Especially since Ellen DeGeneres is thrown in the towel. I mean, we need another Ellen Show, right? All right, so here's my thoughts. Yo, what's up? Patrons in the house. It's a Monday morning sitting here downtown. Went to bed a little bit early last night and missed the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock stuff. I woke up to pee-pee and I saw a text from my wife. She was just dying watching all that go down without me, someone to talk to about it in that room. So I wanted to share my thoughts on here. Obviously, those of you that are not interested in hearing my thoughts, you shouldn't be listening right now. I also want to say that, honestly, at least I talk about stuff like this right after the fact. Half of the stuff I say I probably disagree with later on, but this one I feel pretty strongly. So I usually take like a bird's eye view on stuff like this. So I'm going to go really deep, really fast, at least deep for Joey Svensson. But my therapist is kind of a no-nonsense, cut-to-the-chase, very wise woman. My friend and pastor and free therapist, I guess you could call Chip Judd, says basically all the time, you've heard me quote him, that all people are doing the best they can with what they've got, considering their backgrounds, things that have been done to them, DNA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I said in passing in a conversation with my therapist something along the lines of, basically I was thinking that she was even going to give some some pushback because I said something nonchalant like, seems like, man, there's no one that does anything without having a good excuse for doing it, or no one is a certain way without excuse. Now, I'm not saying that there can be an excuse for like poor actions or really disrespectful and irresponsible words, so to speak. Not saying that you can always make an excuse. When I said this to her so passively, she looked at me seriously and she said, sometimes I really wonder. Knocked me off my socks. Is that a saying? I always mess up sayings. Knock me off my socks. I respect her so much, maybe the wisest person in my life. And she literally said sometimes she wonders whether or not anyone has control over their actions. Again, she's not saying either that there's no such thing as choice. Come on, don't be dualistic in your thinking. I do think the point is valid though. So when I look at Hollywood actors, and I get it, a lot of you are way further along the road than me with this kind of stuff, i.e. maturation. But I look at Hollywood actors and I'm like, they're in the same exact category of all of us. Background, good or bad. Hardships, a lot or not as much. Horrible things done to them. Horrible things they've done to themselves. Mental illness, anger, jealousy. But I'm speculating here. I do think there's a big difference between people like me and then people that are really famous. So once you get to a certain level of fame, now sure, you have criticisms for you, spikes, because everybody sees your every little action, but you also, for the most part, I think, walk into a room and everybody thinks you're awesome. You've got something they don't have. Unreal fame. I mean, you could usually own that joint on a Friday night party if you wanted to. Walk in a room, the whole attention, all of it's yours. And you can go two ways with this, I think. You can go with it just thinking you're a badass, or recognize the danger of this sort of posture, seek help, talk to a therapist, talk to Denzel, or a trusted friend of some sort. And by the way, yes, I got all choked up when Will Smith said something about Denzel, and I just have to believe that Denzel has acquired some wisdom that I don't have, and he just looked like a wise person that loves his friend that is possibly making one of the biggest career mistakes or in the most challenging career seasons of his life. I kind of love that moment. So I'm 44 years old, and I'm finally learning an important lesson. At my very depths, the deepest part of my heart, I felt like for a long time that it's better than other people's hearts. You can listen a little more about this in the beginning of an episode 340, Courage to Not Cancel the Races. Now, what you may be putting together, and I am too, at least I'm thinking this, that if I have this thought about me, I certainly have a habit of making similar judgment calls on other people. He's better than her. She's better than her. He could learn from her because she wouldn't do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And obviously, we all have wisdom to pass along. I really do believe that. Get to more of that here in a second, but not because we're better than others. We don't have wisdom to pass along because we're better than others. In fact, I believe that deep down, people can have better intentions than others. At the end of the day, what do you wake up wanting to do? How pure your motives are, all of that. I believe that maybe we can have better intentions than others. But once you get to the surface level of humanity, our actions, how we carry ourselves, whether we hit our friend in the face for talking about our wife in front of millions of people, it's then on the surface level, we're all on equal playing field. Our capacity for crazy shit, me, you, now potential to do something. In my opinion, I see that differently as capacity. We all have the capacity, but we have different levels of potential. I'd say that's something along the lines of some people are more likely to cheat in a way that hurts another person. We all have that capacity, but the potential, in my opinion, is higher for some people at the beginning of each day, for instance. So when I hear people talk about Will Smith, now we're getting to it, how uncool it was what he did, how less respected they are about him, it doesn't really resonate with me. The dude was full of anger and had basically no time to think through his anger. Now, many of us would say, well, he should have waited for his emotions to calm down. Well, he may know that already. He may offer that same advice to everyone else, and he may take the advice 99 times out of 100, and we just got to witness the one time he didn't. I looked into his face while he was saying, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. And it's a look that I can resonate with. So I'm an Enneagram 9, but you can ask my wife, there's a certain threshold I cross where nothing else matters but making sure something is done and corrected. And it doesn't matter almost what has to be done. I don't care who's watching. But looking at his face, I saw that look when he was saying what he was saying. I know we look at him and think, man, crazy. But in that moment, all that mattered to him was protecting his wife. And it is funny. I don't think he was paying attention at first. He was laughing at the joke. Either he saw how hurt his wife was and then acted, or he was just thinking about whether or not he was going to win an Oscar and wasn't paying attention at all. So once he smelled the situation, so to speak, he lost it on the biggest stage. But no bigger stage in his context of what it would be if I got up and did that at a PTA meeting at the school that my kids grew up in for someone teasing Priscilla about a disease, something out of her control. So now is not the time to evaluate him as a human. Why not just say, I'll say it. That's the point. He is human. Now, I haven't even mentioned whether or not he should have done what he did, because I don't think that's a good question to ask. He's human. We do crazy stuff, and some people who wouldn't do that, what we just did, they may look more composed, but they're actually plotting a retaliation that's going to really be more evil. Like, some of you may have some good advice to offer Will Smith right now, and it would be advice that's timely and wise. But you're an alcoholic. You don't spend enough time with your kids. In fact, your kids hate you. Maybe you're jealous all the time of what the other person gets to do with his or her life instead of just being happy for them. You hate certain people with a passion. It's ruining you and you don't care. But you may even have good advice for Will Smith. In other words, we all have our stuff that we're dealing with. So it's not whether he should have done this or that. In fact, this is kind of anti my Christian faith. I don't want to look at people through the law. That's what Jesus and Paul kept saying not to do. I want to see first how Jesus sees them and then try to love. Period. Stop right there. Why not, out of love, be curious about your fellow human being, how Will Smith feels right now, what you would have done in that situation, how Chris Rock feels right now. Why would a man do that in front of millions? And as we do this, as we are curious, I think the potential is high for us to get into some territory if we haven't done so already. And that territory is, well, what good was reflected in Will Smith last night? I mean, he didn't let anything slide about his wife. Someone making fun of his wife's hair condition because of a disease that's out of her control. He didn't let it slide. In fact, one of the wisest things that I saw looking at the news is when Will Smith said, "Love makes you do crazy things." Could he be one of the wisest persons in this situation? I got choked up thinking about Denzel and Tyler Perry. They took him off to the side and they were talking about things. But I have to live in a world where Denzel has acquired some wisdom that I don't have. And it looked to me, there was sincere emotion in Denzel's eyes. Will Smith also apologized like almost immediately. Why aren't we talking about that? And to be honest, I feel bad for Chris Rock. I mean, obviously I could find out information today that would make me lose empathy for him. Like if he doubled down and just doesn't own that he did something careless that hurt his buddy and his buddy's wife. But even then, I personally want to be careful for the rest of my life not to box Chris Rock up, even if he doubles down and then file it away as this or that. And I know that if I started top of my list of things I'm ashamed about, I told you, you'd wonder why the hell I would even have any word to say about Will Smith. We dig a little bit deeper into your story, and that's what I'll likely feel about you too. But even you will probably have good advice for me. So all this to say, personally, all things considered, Will Smith has been very humanized for me, and that's such a gift to me as I reflect on humanity and observe this world. He lost his cool. That's human, man. He apologized about it. That's him recognizing his humanity. And then he just had the confidence, I'll say swagger, and chillness to even laugh about what could be very damaging to his career, i.e. getting the highest honor revoked. Oh, just my thoughts. What a night last night. Maybe it is probably the craziest thing that's happened on television to this day.